Hello and welcome. This is Computer Science for Jss1 Term Week 5 lesson. I'm Kwasi Barida. Today we are going to be looking at the topic word processing, and by the end of this lesson you should be able to define word processing and word processor, load and exit word processor, and you should be able to create, save, retrieve. You should be able to create, save and retrieve files on a word processor. So let's get started. Word processing. Word processing is the preparation of documents such as letters, journals, memos, resumes, books, or any correspondence using a word processor. I'm going to come back to the word processor. Word processing can also be said to be the use of computer software to create, edit, view, store, retrieve and print documents. So word processing is an act. So whenever you're doing any of these, you're creating, you're editing, you're viewing, you're storing, you're retrieving, or you're printing a document using an application package on a computer, that is word processing. So next, let's see what word processor is. That's a noun. Word processor is a program or any application package that is used to create an organized and attractive document easily and quickly. The word processor is used to carry out word processing tasks. So it's clear now. Word processing is an adjective, while word processor is a noun. Word processing is an act. You're creating, that means maybe you're typing, or you're viewing, you're editing, you're retrieving, you're printing a document. When you do any of or all of those, that is word processing. Then the application that you use to carry out these is a word processor. So that's word processor, word processing. Take note of that. And very importantly, the point I'm about saying now, it's very important. Take note of it. A file created using a word processor is called a document. A file created using a word processor is called a document. So what that means is files that are created using different application packages depending on what it's used for. They have their different names. So the name of the file that is created using a word processor is a document. Take note of that and never forget it. So next, let's look at the uses of word processors. What are they being used for? What makes it different from other applications that used to maybe just type documents? So word processor, one, it is used for text formatting. It's used for text formatting. So that's talking about changing the fonts, changing the font size, changing the font color, making the font bold, italicizing the fonts, or underlining the font, and so on. So when you do word processor is used to do all of this, as to change the fonts, to change the font size, change the font color, to make a font bold, to italicize the fonts, to underline the font. And when we talk about fonts, they are referring to the characters, that's the alphabets, the numbers, and the punctuation marks. So those are the fonts. And another use of word processor is for copying, cutting and pasting. Once text has been entered into a document, it can be copied or cut and pasted anywhere in the current document or in any other document. So copying, cutting and pasting, they're all done using the word processor. So cutting and copying, what's the difference? The difference is that for copying, you still have the original of that means you're taking a copy of what you have the original there. But cutting means you're moving the original to a different location. So that's the difference. Copying, the original is there, or cutting, the original is what is being moved. Then pasting is you placing what you either cut or copied. So if, for example, you want to copy a text, let's say on a particular document, or you have a text that you want to have it again in another place, so you copy it and take it to the other place, and when you place it there, that's pasting. But if you want to move something from a particular place to a different location entirely, or to a different place on a document, what you do is to cut. So word processor makes that possible. So another thing you use it for is spelling and grammar. Word processor checks for spelling and grammar errors in a document. So as you're typing a document, it's possible as you're typing you can make some little errors. So the word processor checks those errors for you. When you're typing, you can see some underlined words in red. So that's the word processor checking your spellings and grammar. Then another use is to adjust the layouts, adjusting of layouts. Word processor is capable of modifying the margins, size and layout of documents. Another use is that it's multimedia. You can insert clip arts, can insert charts, can insert images, pictures and videos in a document using a word processor. You can use a word processor to insert all of this as a multimedia. And next you have find. Word processor gives you the ability to quickly find any word or text in any size of the document, no matter how large, no matter the number of pages a document have or it has. You can search for a word inside of it. Very simple. All you need to do is to make use of the shortcut Ctrl F. So you press the shortcut Ctrl F, it's going to bring a search box for you. So you type in the word you want to get. So as you type in that word, you click on search, and it's going to take you to wherever it is. So even if it's a document that has 1,000 pages, just with that it will search it, and within maybe a few seconds you get what you're looking for, either a word or a phrase or a sentence. So that's one of the use to find. Then you have another one, search and replace. So for the search and replace, it's just like the find, but in this case now you maybe there's a particular word that you want to replace in a document. You want to replace a particular word in a document. So you first of all you search for it, then there's a place where you type in what you want to replace the previous one with. So the word processor helps you do that. Then next, still on the uses of word processor, indentation and lists. Word processor helps you set and format tabs, bullet lists and number lists. Another is inserting of tables. You can add tables to a document using the word processor. Another is word wrap. Word processor can detect the edges of a page or a container and automatically wrap the text using word wrap. So as you're typing, it does not get to the end of a page and it continues going. Word processor, it's designed in a way that once it gets to the end of a page or it gets to the end of a margin, automatically it goes down to the next line and continues typing. So that's the word wrap. Then next you have the header and the footer. The word processor is able to adjust and change texts in the header and footer of a document. That's the top margin and the bottom margin of a document. You can insert text there, you can edit the text there, and so on, and that is being possible by the word processor. You can do that with the word processor. And next you have the thesaurus. With the word processor, you can look up for alternatives to a word without leaving the program, or without leaving the application you're working with, or without leaving the word processor you're working with. So you can look for alternative words. So thesaurus is like a dictionary that gives you synonyms to words. So that's one of the features, or one of the uses of word processor. Then you have another one, multi-windows. So with the word processor, you can have a window for a document. You can have a window for a document, then you have another window for a different document. So with it, you can compare and contrast, or you copy write-ups from one document to another. So while working on documents, you can have additional windows with other documents for comparison, or move texts between documents. So I have another one, autocorrect. So automatically word processor automatically corrects common errors. For example, if let's say you want to type the, that's THE. So if mistakenly you typed TEH, the moment you click on the space bar, the moment you press the space bar, automatically it arranges to THE. That is assuming that okay, you made a mistake. So that's an example. So if maybe what you typed is still what you want to type, just use the backspace. Automatically it's going to go back to what you were typing. But autocorrect, that's one of the features of word processor. Then we'll have one more, mailers and label. So with word processor, you can create mailers or print labels. So these are some of the uses, or there's still some more of it that is not mentioned. So these are some of the uses of word processor. So next, let's look at examples of word processor application packages. You have the WordPad, you have the WordWrite, you have Microsoft Word, you have the WordPerfect, you have the Multimate, you have the Abby Word, and so on and so forth. So these are some of the examples of a word processor. So next, let's see how to load and how to exit a word processor. Loading a word processor. Loading is the process of making a computer program that is stored in the hard disk to be available for the user. So you have several programs on your computer. So if you want to make use of them, you load them, and when we say loading them, you're bringing them from the hard disk on the RAM. Remember I talked about the memory of the computer, so let's not go into that for today. But we know the hard disk is a place where you have all of your programs and files stored. You have them stored there when the system is on, but the ones you're making use of when the system is on, the ones you're making use of, they are all stored on the RAM. So when you're loading a program, you're bringing that program on the RAM. You bring that program on the RAM, so the RAM holds it for you to make use of it. So loading a program is a process of making the computer program stored in the hard disk available for the user. So that is the meaning of loading. And another way you can say open, as well say to open a program. So that's like a simpler way of saying it, but loading a program is the more accurate way of saying it. So to load a program, first you click on the start button that is located on the taskbar as the left bottom of the screen, or press the start button on the keyboard. some keyboard have the start button logo on it, and it's between the control key and the alternate key. So for a laptop that has a functional key, that has the FN key, so it's between the FN key and the alternate key. So that you press the Windows key, then on the options you select program depending on the version of Windows on the computer you're using, else you type Microsoft Word. So if you're making use of a more recent version of Windows like the Windows 10, if you press the start button, if you press the start button on the taskbar or the start button on the keyboard, the menu that comes up does not give you a program, does not give you an option where you click to get a list of programs. It just gives a list of the programs already. So all you need to do is to scroll. So if you can scroll down to the Microsoft, if you can scroll down, you're going to see the Microsoft Word. Then click on it. Or else, what you do is to type. That means you're like searching for the program you want to load or the program you want to open. So once you click on the start button, you type Microsoft Word. So you type Microsoft Word, then you have the Microsoft Word icon. It appears. So when you click on it, it loads the program. But if you're using like the older version of Windows, when you click on the start button, you have a program. So as you click on the program, you click on Microsoft Office. So when you click on Microsoft Office, then on the list of Microsoft Office programs, you have Microsoft Word. So we are assuming you're using the newer version of Windows. So when you click on this, when you search for Microsoft Word, the icon appears. So you click on it, then it loads the Microsoft Word, or loads the Word processor. Okay, now we are assuming we are working with Microsoft Word. So this is the process using loading a Microsoft Word program. So that's for loading a Microsoft Word. So another way of doing it is you check if there is a shortcut icon of Microsoft Word on the desktop. So on the desktop of your computer, you may have a Microsoft Word shortcut icon. So if you have a Microsoft Word shortcut icon on the desktop, all you need to do is to place your mouse pointer on the icon and you double click on it. So when you double click on it, it's going to load the Microsoft Word program or the word processor. So how to exit a word processor? So now you've opened the program, assuming you've finished doing what you need to do. So after working on a document on the word processor, it's important the document is saved and exited. There are three ways of exiting the word processor. So the first is that you click on the file menu. So that's how it looks like. So that's a Microsoft Word screen. That's a screenshot of it. So that's the file menu. So when you click on it, and you're going to have a menu. So on the menu, you click on close. So you can see the close there with the arrow. So as you click on close, that's how you close the program. So that's a two-step way of closing the program after you've saved the program, after you've saved the document you created. Then you have another way, as a second option, is to click on the close button on the title bar. So on the title bar, the right top of the title bar, you have three buttons. You have the minimize, maximize, restore, and the close buttons. So the close button is the one with the X. So you click on the close button, it closes the word processor. So you have it's there. You can see the arrow pointing at the close button. So you click on that, it closes the program. So the third option is to use the shortcuts, as by pressing Ctrl plus W. You press it at the same time, Ctrl plus W on the keyboard as a control key and the W. You hold both of them at the same time. So when you do that, it closes the program. So that's how you exit the word processor. Then the next thing we're going to be looking at is how to create, how to save, and how to retrieve a file on word processor. So first, let's see how to create a file on the word processor. We're going to work with the word processor. We're going to be working with word processor, Microsoft Word. So for us to create a file, or for us to create a document, we are going to be working with Microsoft Word. Remember, we said we have different kinds of word processor. So the one we are going to be working with is the Microsoft Word, and that's because that's the one that it's popular in this area. So let's the first step is, after loading the Microsoft Word, that means you've opened it, it has loaded. So next you click on File menu. You click on File menu. Remember the File menu that we had a picture of it in the previous slide, or last two slides. Then the next is to click on New. So you click on the File menu and click on New. So after clicking on New, then you click on Blank Document. You select Blank Document. So if you do this, it's going to open a blank document, and next thing you have to do is to type in your document. You type in what you want to create. Is it a letter? Is it a book you want to write? Is it a memo? Is it a resume? So you type it in. So if you have done that, then you have created a new document. So that's that explains the first few steps that I talked about. So when you click on the file menu, you get this. So after clicking on that, then you can see the new there. If you click on the new, it's going to give you that page you're seeing there, and you see the blank document. So when you click on the blank document, it's going to give you a blank page where you can now do your typing. So that's how you create a document. So after creating the document, the next thing you have to do is to save. So let's see how to save a document. So to save a document, or saving a document, is a process of storing it with a file name in a specified storage location, either on the hard drive or secondary storage, such as floppy disk, flash, CDs, etc. So there are two ways of saving a document. So let's see the first of the two ways of saving a document. The first option is just you click on the file menu. So after clicking on the file menu, then next you click on Save As. So after clicking on Save As, you are going to have a dialog box. So on the Save As dialog box, you enter a name for the document. So whenever you want to make use of it, when you want to make use of the document again, you can easily identify it. So give a name that relates to what you have in the document. So after entering the name of the document, then next you indicate the location where you want the document to be stored. You want it to be stored in the hard disk. So on the hard disk, you have different locations. You can store it in a documents folder, you can store it on the desktop folder, or in any location that will be easier for you to get back to it when you need it again. Or you can store it on any of the external storage devices, your flash, your floppy diskette, your CD, and so on. So after doing that, you click on Save. So when you click on Save, you have successfully saved the document you created. So after saving the document, let's say you want to open it again, you want to do a little more work on it, you want to edit it, you want to view it. So how do you retrieve? Okay, we have one more option on how to save. Remember, I'll say we have two options. So the second option on how to save is to simply press Ctrl plus S on the keyboard. You press Ctrl plus S on the keyboard. Remember, you do that simultaneously. You hold both of them together. So Ctrl plus S, when you press that on the keyboard, it's going to bring the Save As dialog box. So when that appears, you're going to continue from the first option on how to save the document. As on the Save As dialog box, you enter the name for the document, and then you indicate the location where you want to save the document. Then you click on Save. So that is how to save the document. So after saving the documents, if you want to go back to it again, so what you need to do is to retrieve the document. Okay, so that's the dialog box. As dialog box, so you can see the place where you enter the file name. So all you need to do is to erase what is there already, or if you want to save it as what is suggested, then you can save it like that. But if you want to give a different name to it, you just erase what is there, you type in the name, then you choose the location where you want the document saved. Choose the location, then you click on Save. You can see the save there. Click on Save. So that's how you save the document. So after saving the document, you want to get it back, you want to retrieve the file. So we go to retrieve the file. So for you to retrieve a file, or retrieving a file is a process of bringing back a saved file from a storage location. It is also referred to as opening a saved file. To retrieve a file, there are two ways of doing it as well. To retrieve a file, first you click on the File menu. That means when you load the Microsoft Word program. So after loading it, then next you click on the File menu. So after clicking on the File menu, next you select Open, as on the list you have. You click Open. So after clicking on Open, you're going to have a dialog box. So on the dialog box, you're going to move to the location where you saved the file you want to open, the document you want to open. You go to that location. So when you go to the location, you select the file and you click on Open. So you go to the location where you saved the file. So you click on the file and you click on Open. And it's going to open the file. So that's the first option. So the second option is to use the shortcuts Ctrl O. So you press Ctrl O on the keyboard. So after pressing Ctrl O on the keyboard, you're going to have the Open dialog box. So on the dialog box, you follow the same steps as in the first. So that means you go to the location where you have the file saved, you click on the file, then you click on Open. So having done that, you're going to have the document retrieved for you to either work on it again, or you want to view it, or you want to print it. So that's how the Save As, that's how the Open dialog box looks like. That's how the Open dialog box looks like. So when you have it open like that, you go to the location, you can see a file that you have there, a Microsoft document, 2 Corinthians chapter 6. So if that's what you want to access, you click on it. So you after selecting there, click on Open. So it's going to load the file. So that's how to retrieve a file that you've created. So let's do a summary of what we've learned so far. First, we learned how to define word processing and word processor. We talked about the difference. Word processing is an adjective, is an act of creating, editing, viewing, retrieving, printing the document. While word processor is the program, that's a noun, is a program that is used to carry out word processing. So that's it. Then next we talked about how to load and how to exit a word processor. Then finally we talked about how to create, how to save, how to retrieve files on the word processor. So this is something you can work with, something you can do. Perhaps you're making use of a system to view this video. So all you need to do, just open load the Microsoft Word, then follow the steps on how to do these things, then you try doing them on your own and work on them, and you're going to get even better. So thank you very much for your time. We're going to see you again in our next class. So until then, God bless you richly, and goodbye.